Does your mother-in-law fix your recipes or rearrange your furniture when you're not home? You're experiencing boundary violations that damage family relationships, and you're not being too sensitive about it. My 6-month investigation with family therapists and struggling couples revealed surprising psychological patterns behind these seemingly innocent interferences. The research uncovered why these behaviors create such deep resentment and how they systematically undermine parental authority and spousal relationships. Most importantly, I discovered effective techniques to address these issues before they escalate into irreparable family rifts. Stay with me. This understanding will transform how you perceive and respond to every interaction with your in-laws going forward. Grandma's special cookies, a sweet beginning. Picture this, a warm kitchen filled with the smell of fresh-baked cookies. Martha, my mother-in-law, humming some old tune as she pulls a tray from the oven, her face literally glowing with pride. Classic Martha. Every Sunday afternoon, like clockwork, she's at our house for her sacred grandma time, which always involves baking. The soft crackle of parchment paper and gentle ticking of the vintage wall clock create that familiar Sunday atmosphere we've all come to expect. Martha is an enthusiastic grandmother, the kind who buys presents 3 months before birthdays and keeps a special drawer at her house filled with toys that are too noisy for Mom and Dad's house. My kids think she hung the moon. And honestly, most of the time, I'm grateful they have a grandmother who loves them so fiercely. But there's something about the way Martha bakes that's always made me uncomfortable. It's the little glances over her shoulder when she thinks I'm not looking. The secretive way she adds ingredients when the kids aren't paying attention. Like right now, I'm pretending to load the dishwasher. But in the reflection of the microwave door, I can see her slipping something into the mixing bowl, quickly covering it with flour before anyone notices. Grandma, are the cookies almost ready? My 7-year-old Emma bounces around the kitchen island, her younger brother trailing behind her like a shadow. Almost, sweethearts. And trust me, these are going to be much better than Mommy's cookies. Martha winks at them conspiratorially. Grandma knows the real way to make chocolate chip cookies. The secret's in how you mix them. I feel something twist in my stomach. It's the better than Mommy's part. The way she says it, like we're competitors for my children's approval rather than teammates in raising them. I bet they'll be amazing, Martha, I say, trying to keep my voice light. What's your secret ingredient today? She laughs, that tinkling laugh that somehow always sounds a little hollow to me. Oh, just a grandmother's love. Nothing you can buy in stores. The timer dings, and suddenly it's a whirlwind of activity. Martha placing cookies on the cooling rack, the kids hovering like little vultures, me pouring milk into their favorite cups. I watch their faces as they take their first bites, lighting up with genuine delight. These are better than Mommy's, Emma declares, chocolate smeared across her cheek. Can you teach Mom how to make them like this, Grandma? Martha beams. Some people just have the touch, sweetheart. Your mom is good at other things. Another subtle dig, wrapped in a compliment, delivered with a smile. These tiny paper cuts that sting but seem too small to mention. I'm about to change the subject when I notice something. A small red patch forming on my 5-year-old Noah's cheek. Then another on his neck. My mom radar goes into immediate overdrive. Noah, honey, let me see your face. I tilt his chin toward me, my heart starting to pound as I see the rash spreading. He's fine, Martha waves dismissively. Kids get rosy when they're excited. But I'm already opening the cabinet where we keep the children's Benadryl. Noah, does your throat feel funny? Is it itchy anywhere? Maybe a little, he admits, scratching at his neck. Martha rolls her eyes dramatically for the kids' benefit. Oh, it's just a tiny bit of nuts. They need to build up tolerance. My Robert ate peanut butter every day as a child and never had a problem. The bottle of Benadryl nearly slips from my hand. You put nuts in these? Martha, we've talked about this. Noah has a mild nut allergy. Mild is the key word, she says, as if explaining something to a particularly slow student. How will he ever outgrow it if you're so overprotective? I measure out the medication with shaking hands, helping Noah drink it while keeping my voice calm. That's not how allergies work, and you know it. Emma's bottom lip trembles. She hates conflict, especially between her mom and grandma. Martha puts her arm around Emma's shoulders. Your mom overreacts about everything, she stage whispers. Noah is perfectly fine. Look at him. Noah is indeed looking better already, the medication working quickly. But that's not the point. Kids, why don't you go watch some TV while I clean up in here? I suggest. Once they've left, I turn to face Martha, who's already wiping down counters as if nothing happened. We need to talk about what just happened, I say quietly. Nothing happened, she responds without looking at me, except you turning a tiny rash into World War III. You deliberately put an ingredient in food that you know Noah reacts to, after we've specifically discussed his allergy multiple times. Martha sighs dramatically. It was just a little bit of almond extract, barely a drop. And look, he's fine. The pattern we've danced through for years, the boundary crossed, the dismissal of my concerns, the rewriting of reality until I'm the unreasonable one. Did my mother-in-law really cause a family crisis over cookies? Yes, and trust me, it wasn't about the cookies at all. It never is. The cookies are just the battlefield where something much more important is being contested. My authority as a parent. The secret ingredient, control. Those cookies had a secret ingredient that wasn't listed in any recipe book. Pure, undiluted control. And here's the weird thing about control seekers like Martha. They don't even realize they're doing it half the time. The need to assert dominance is baked into their behavior just as surely as those nuts were baked into my son's cookies. So what actually drives someone like my mother-in-law to deliberately ignore clear instructions about something as simple as a cookie recipe? A split screen would tell the whole story. On one side, there's Martha smugly sprinkling chopped almonds into the batter while whispering, "I know best." And on the other side, there's me, clearly explaining Noah's allergy situation weeks earlier. Think of it like a chess match. Each cookie represents a move to establish dominance on the family board. What we're seeing here is a classic example of food preparation being used as a dominance behavior, says Dr. Elaine Foster, a family therapist I interviewed for this video. In many family systems, especially intergenerational ones, food becomes currency in a complex exchange of power and control. Recent studies show that 68% of family conflicts involve disagreements over traditions or routines in the home. Dr. Foster explains that when someone like Martha insists on changing recipes against explicit instructions, they're making a statement. My knowledge trumps yours. My experience matters more. My way is the right way. This pattern didn't start with cookies, though. Looking back, I can spot the same behavior everywhere. Like the time Martha rearranged our living room furniture while helping me clean, because it flowed better her way. Or when she returned the blue sweater I'd picked for Emma's birthday and replaced it with a pink one because girls should wear feminine colors. Or my personal favorite, when she decided Noah's afternoon nap schedule was too rigid and let him stay up until he had a complete meltdown. Each of these seemingly helpful improvements follows the same pattern Dr. Foster points out as we review these incidents. They all fundamentally undermine your authority as a parent and homemaker. They're all statements that say, my way is better than yours, without ever having to speak those words directly. During these control episodes, the brain's pleasure centers activate. Our animation shows this process. The brain receives a satisfaction reward through dopamine release whenever someone overrides another's decisions. Martha might genuinely believe she's being helpful while her brain enjoys each instance of decision-making dominance. This is rarely conscious, Dr. Foster emphasizes. In an enmeshed family system, parents often control their children through emotional manipulation, which can last well into adulthood. This type of control happens because parents become so reliant on their children for emotional support that they consciously or unconsciously prevent them from achieving personal growth. But here's where the story gets complicated and a bit more sympathetic toward Martha. When we dig into her history, we discover she was subjected to the exact same treatment by her own mother-in-law. For 20 years, she endured Margaret's helpful suggestions about how to raise Robert, how to clean her house, how to dress, how to cook. She swore she'd never be that kind of mother-in-law, yet here she is, repeating the exact same patterns. Patterns of behavior that indicate control issues, as opposed to genuine helpfulness, often involve a disregard for established boundaries and a subtle undermining of autonomy, explains Dr. Foster. This includes questioning decisions, offering unsolicited advice, or inserting themselves into situations where they are not welcome. When I asked Martha why she felt the need to add nuts to the cookies, despite knowing about Noah's allergy, her answer was revealing. A little exposure builds immunity. My mother-in-law taught me that, and all my kids turned out fine. She's defending her identity as a mother and grandmother. She's defending her relevance in a family where her role has diminished. Research shows that in-laws often change things in their adult children's homes to maintain influence over family decisions. This stems from their past role as primary caregivers and manifests as a need to feel important within the family, especially after their child marries. Emotional manipulation is a common tactic used by in-laws to exert control, often disguised as care or concern, notes Dr. Foster. These manipulative behaviors undermine the couple's confidence in their choices and prioritize the mother-in-law's needs over the couple's well-being. So what was the real secret ingredient in those cookies? It was Martha's deep-seated need to assert dominance and undermine my parental authority. The cookies were merely the vehicle for a potent message. I still matter. I know better than you, and I'll prove it however I can. The most troubling part? Martha genuinely believes she's acting out of love. She'd be horrified if someone suggested she was trying to control the family. In her mind, she's sharing wisdom and tradition. She's being helpful. She's showing love the only way she knows how. But love doesn't disregard clear boundaries. Love doesn't put a child at risk. Love doesn't need to prove itself by asserting dominance. That's the bitter truth at the center of this sweet-seeming situation. From cookies to power plays. When Martha replaced my chocolate chips with walnuts, she wasn't just baking cookies. She was staking a claim. Think about it. Have you ever noticed how the person who controls the food often controls the family? Your kitchen might actually be the most politically charged room in your entire house. Anthropologists have studied this phenomenon for years. That simmering pot on the stove represents a battlefield where authority gets established one recipe at a time. I watched it play out in my own kitchen last month when my mother came to visit while Martha was there. 3 generations of women, all circling the mixing bowl like strategists around a war room table, each of us maneuvering for the right to decide what normal means in our family. Picture the scene. My mother confidently reaching for the vanilla, Martha swooping in with a helpful suggestion about using almond extract instead, and me stuck in the middle, wondering when making a simple batch of snickerdoodles turned into Game of Thrones Kitchen Edition. Every suggestion, every pinch of salt, every "that's not how we do it" became a tactical move on this culinary chessboard. In family settings, everyday activities like cooking and food preparation can become contested territory in power struggles, explains Dr. Samantha Webb, family psychologist. The kitchen often serves as a battleground for authority, particularly in the relationships between mothers and mothers-in-law. Martha's tactics are fascinating if you know what to look for. She doesn't storm in and take over. That would be too obvious. Instead, she orchestrates a symphony of subtle moves. Is that really enough cinnamon? Or in my day, we sifted the flour 3 times. My personal favorite was when she took a bite of my lasagna, smiled tightly and said, "It's interesting," before offering to show me her foolproof recipe next time. As I observed these interactions, I began to see patterns that extended beyond just cooking disagreements. Dr. Webb identifies this as kitchen territory marking, a common form of female-to-female dominance behavior. Control over food preparation becomes a symbolic representation of broader authority issues within the family, she explains. The kitchen, as a central space for nurturing and tradition, often becomes a site where different generations and family members vie for influence. On screen, we see an animation of these small acts creating ripples through family dynamics. Each critical comment or recipe improvement chips away at the mother's confidence and authority. Death by 1,000 cookie cutters. This pattern repeats across different domains of family life. Our comparison chart pops up on screen showing similar power plays in other areas like child discipline, holiday traditions, and home decoration. The psychologist points out that these behaviors form a comprehensive strategy to reshape family norms. What we're seeing in the reconstructed scene with 3 generations in the kitchen is a dramatization of how seemingly simple acts, such as baking cookies, become a means of asserting control and defining what's normal within the family. Last Thanksgiving exemplified this kitchen power struggle perfectly. Martha arrived 2 days early to help prepare. Within hours, she'd rearranged my spice rack alphabetically. I had it organized by frequency of use, suggested my turkey roasting pan was inadequate, and somehow managed to misplace my grandmother's handwritten stuffing recipe, replacing it with her own version. By dinner time, I felt like a guest in my own kitchen. When my daughter asked me where the cranberry sauce was, Martha answered before I could open my mouth. "I put it in the blue dish, sweetheart. Mommy's crystal bowl was too small." Reflecting on that moment later, I realized how masterfully Martha had outmaneuvered me on my own culinary territory. This observation aligns perfectly with Dr. Webb's analysis. This isn't just about food. It's about who has the authority to make decisions and establish norms. When someone consistently overrides another person's choices in their own domain, they're making a statement about hierarchy and power. What makes this dynamic so insidious is how easily it's disguised as helpfulness or tradition. Martha isn't trying to be malicious. In her mind, she's sharing wisdom and improving things. That's what makes addressing it so complicated. You can't exactly blow up at someone for suggesting you add more vanilla to the cake batter. The animation shows how these small acts accumulate over time like water dripping on a rock, eventually carving a canyon in family power dynamics. For children caught in this power struggle, the messages can be confusing. When Emma sees her grandmother override my decisions in the kitchen, she's learning something about authority and whose rules really matter. The question of who gets to decide what goes into the cookies becomes a question of who gets to decide, period. When manipulation wears a love costume, the battle for control doesn't always march in wearing combat boots. Sometimes it slips in wearing a cardigan and carrying freshly baked cookies. Ever notice how the most manipulative people in your family are often the ones who claim they're just showing how much they care? There's a psychological sleight of hand happening that's worth unpacking. Let me introduce you to something psychologists call emotional blackmail. Like a venomous compliment, it delivers control tactics wrapped in a pretty package labeled love or concern. This manipulation thrives in family settings because challenging someone's caring intentions makes you seem ungrateful, especially when it's grandma who's devoted to her grandbabies. Consider Janet from Ohio, who we interviewed among several mothers-in-law. She smiles warmly at the camera. "Sometimes my daughter-in-law gets upset when I buy the kids ice cream before dinner, but I only see them once a week. I love them so much I can't help myself." Behind me, our family therapist, Dr. Lisa Chen, is practically climbing out of her chair. Her analysis cuts through the sweetness. What we're seeing here is a masterclass in emotional manipulation, Dr. Chen explains. These statements sound innocent but contain hidden weapons. When someone uses "I love them so much" as justification for ignoring clear boundaries, they're establishing their emotions as more important than the parent's rules. The screen shows Martha smiling broadly while saying, "I just want what's best for the children," as she slips them candy after their parents said no. Dr. Chen points to this evidence. "This is textbook emotional blackmail," she continues. The manipulator creates a narrative where their love is the hero and anyone questioning them becomes the villain. It works because who wants to oppose love? Dr. Chen explains that emotional blackmail leverages flattery or threats to trigger feelings of obligation. When the target complies, she says, they receive temporary kindness or approval. But they've taught the manipulator that the tactic works, setting up future episodes. The animation shows how this cycle perpetuates. Boundary crossing, claims of loving intentions, confusion and guilt, giving in, reinforcement, repeat. Watch for these red flags, Dr. Chen cautions as phrases appear on screen. "If you loved me, you'd let me," whispered after a boundary is set. "I only did it because I care so much," offered as justification for interference. "Nobody loves these children more than I do," declared to establish superior authority. These statements create confusion and guilt, Dr. Chen emphasizes. They make it nearly impossible to maintain boundaries without feeling like the bad guy. The animation shifts to show how these tactics affect the brain. When someone hears manipulative phrases, emotional centers light up, often overriding logical parts that might otherwise detect the manipulation. Defending against emotional blackmail is difficult because the manipulator deliberately blurs the line between genuine care and controlling behavior. Dr. Chen explains, "Your brain receives conflicting signals. This person says they love me, but their actions make me feel awful." We see footage of a mother explaining to her children why they can't have grandma's secret candy. The children appear confused. If grandma loves them, why would she do something bad? Children are particularly vulnerable to this manipulation, Dr. Chen notes. They lack the cognitive tools to understand that someone can both love them and manipulate them. This creates deeply confusing messages about relationships and boundaries. Another destructive tactic is the invalidation of feelings. Dr. Chen describes how manipulative family members dismiss legitimate concerns. When a mother-in-law says, "You're overreacting about important issues," she's making the other person believe their emotions aren't valid. The screen shows Martha rolling her eyes when her daughter-in-law expresses concern about a nut allergy, saying, "You worry too much." Over time, Dr. Chen explains, this invalidation leads people to doubt their own instincts, making them more vulnerable to manipulation. We see Martha becoming cold when her suggestions aren't followed. Dr. Chen identifies this as withholding affection. When manipulators only show kindness when you comply with their wishes, that's conditioning, not love, she explains. They're training you like you might train a dog. This often involves isolation tactics like the silent treatment. In in-law relationships, the implied threat is powerful, Dr. Chen notes. If you don't do things my way, I might withhold approval or affection from your children. Manipulators blur these lines deliberately to avoid accountability. When confronted, they'll say, "Everything I do is because I love you," Dr. Chen explains. This creates cognitive dissonance. The behavior feels wrong, but the stated intention sounds right. Most people resolve this by red flags flying, spotting boundary bulldozers. That guilt trip might feel like a casual Sunday drive, but it's actually the first stop on a much longer journey of manipulation. Family therapists have seen it all, from the harmless eccentric aunt who collects spoons to the grandmother who systematically rewrites your parenting playbook when you're not looking. The difference? One's quirky, the other's dangerous. And most of us have been conditioned our entire lives to ignore the warning signs. Let me introduce Dr. Rachel Winters, a family psychologist with 20 years of experience navigating the murky waters of toxic family dynamics. Most people struggle to identify boundary violations because they've been taught that family gets special privileges, she explains as we sit down in her office filled with family photos. They mistake control for caring. Dr. Winters points to a case study displayed on her screen, a dramatization of a seemingly innocent grandparent pickup scenario. Here's Grandma Janet arriving unannounced at school to pick up her grandson Tyler, she narrates as the scene unfolds. When the teacher mentions she's not on the approved pickup list, Janet insists there must be a mistake and that she's picked Tyler up many times before. The screen splits to show the mother's frantic text messages as she discovers her son isn't at after-school care. This is warning sign number 1, consistently forgetting clearly stated rules, Dr. Winters explains. Janet was explicitly told she wasn't authorized for pickup, but she created an emergency situation that centered her desires over established boundaries. The most insidious aspect of boundary violations is how they make you question your own perceptions. When someone repeatedly ignores your stated preferences, they're not being forgetful, Dr. Winters emphasizes. They're sending a clear message that your rules are optional and their judgment supersedes yours. Dr. Winters identifies other warning signs, like creating situations where saying no makes you look like the villain, such as buying children a puppy after parents said no pets. This tactic weaponizes children's emotions against the parents, she explains. The boundary crosser becomes the hero while forcing the parent into the role of the bad guy, undermining parental authority and teaching children that boundaries are negotiable. In our research, parents described the emotional whiplash of these situations. One mother told us, "My mother-in-law would wait until I left the room to give my toddler soda in a sippy cup. When confronted, she'd say, 'One little treat from grandma won't hurt.' But it was about the pattern of going behind my back." This reveals warning sign number 3, the covert operation. Dr. Winters explains, when family members specifically wait until you're absent to break your rules, they're demonstrating they know exactly what they're doing. The secrecy reveals their awareness that the behavior is unacceptable. The invalidation of feelings proves particularly damaging. When a family member dismisses your concerns or reprimands you for showing emotion, they're employing a manipulation tactic designed to make you believe your feelings don't matter, eroding your self-worth over time. When someone says you're being too sensitive after violating a boundary, they're attempting to make the problem your reaction rather than their behavior, Dr. Winters notes. The screen shows a grandmother telling her son one version of events while telling her daughter-in-law something completely different. Warning sign number 4 is triangulation.